Welcome to Learn English Speaking. Let's talk stories. Here we bring you amazing stories to improve your English fluency. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting lessons. Let's learn together.
Chapter 6. The Thief is Caught. Early next morning, the thief was dressing. He looked out of his window and noticed a large crowd of boys in the street below. Some of them were playing football in Princess Square. The others were standing there, talking. The schools are probably closed today, he thought. At the same time, the captain was having a meeting in the courtyard at the back of the cinema. There were more boys than before, and he was very angry again. "I didn't want you to tell anyone about our plan," he shouted. "And what do? You bring a lot of boys that we don't know. Our plan was a secret. It isn't now." "Don't be angry, Captain," said Gerald. "We'll catch the thief." "You can send all these boys home," said Walter. He was trying to help. "No, I can't," said the captain. "They won't go." "There's only one thing to do, then," said Emil. "We must change our plans. We can't follow the thief secretly now. There are too many boys. So he must see what we're doing. When he comes out of the hotel, we'll make a circle of boys around him. That circle will follow him everywhere he goes. He won't be able to escape." "Good idea," said the captain. "I was thinking that too." "The boys in the circle should make a lot of noise," said Emil. "Then other people will notice what's happening. The thief will want to give us the money back before the police arrive." There was the sound of a bell at the gateway. Everyone turned round. Polly rode into the courtyard. "Good morning, detectives," she said. She jumped off her bicycle and took a bag from the front. "I've brought you some coffee," she said, "and some food." The boys weren't really hungry. It was too soon after breakfast to eat again. But they didn't want to be rude, so they took the bag. They ate and drank everything. Suddenly they heard Paul's horn. He ran into the courtyard, shouting, "Quick! Let's go! The thief's leaving the hotel!" All the boys ran through the gateway. Polly was left alone with her bicycle and the empty bag. She wasn't very pleased. She jumped on her bicycle and rode after the boys. "I don't like it! I don't like it!" she said. She sounded like her grandmother. The thief came out of the hotel and turned to the right. The captain sent Tony and Walter to the different groups of boys. They gave them their orders. In 3 minutes, there was a large crowd of boys all around the thief. He didn't know what to do. The boys were talking, laughing, and following him everywhere. "And why are they looking at me all the time?" he thought. He couldn't understand what was happening. Suddenly, a ball flew past his head. He didn't like that and began to walk more quickly. But the boys walked faster too. He tried to turn into a side street, but another crowd of boys stood in his way. "Walk in front of me," Emil said to Paul. "The thief mustn't see me yet." Polly rode at the side of the crowd, ringing her little bell. The thief was feeling more and more nervous. He didn't know what he should do next. He tried walking faster, but he couldn't escape. Suddenly, he turned round and ran back along the street. The crowd followed. Then Walter ran in front of the thief, and the man nearly fell. "What's the matter with you?" Mr. Green shouted. Go away, or I'll call a policeman."
"Oh, yes, please," said Walter. "That's what we're waiting for." Of course, the thief didn't want to call a policeman. He looked up. People were looking at him from their windows. Was anyone phoning the police?
"If the police come," he thought, "they'll start asking questions."
He was beginning to feel afraid. He didn't know what to do. Then he saw a bank across the road. It gave him an idea. He ran through the crowd of boys and hurried into the bank. The boys followed. The captain stopped them at the door and said, "Paul and I will go inside. Emil can stay here until we're ready for him. When Paul sounds his horn, Emil and 10 boys must come into the bank." He turned to Emil. "Bring some good boys, Emil. This will be a difficult business." Paul and the captain walked into the bank. Mr. Green was standing in front of a desk. Behind the desk, a bank assistant was having a telephone conversation. The captain got close to the thief. Paul stood behind him, with his hand in his pocket, ready to sound his horn. The bank assistant finished telephoning and came to the desk. "What can I do for you?" he asked Mr. Green.
"Can you change these £70 for me, please? I'd like £5 notes for the £10 notes, and £1 notes for the £5 notes."
He took the money out of his pocket.
"Stop!" the captain called out. "That money was stolen."
"What?" said the bank assistant in surprise. The other people in the bank looked up from their work.
"This man stole that money from my friend," said the captain. "But if he changes the money into smaller notes, nobody can prove it." "You crazy boy!" shouted Mr. Green. He hit the captain in the face. The captain hit him back hard in the stomach. All the bank workers ran to the desk to watch. Paul sounded his horn. 10 boys came running into the bank. Emil was in front. They all stood around Mr. Green. The bank manager came out of his office. "What's all this noise about?"
he asked. Emil pointed to the thief. "Yesterday afternoon, this man here stole my money. He took it while I was asleep on the train from Newton."
"Can you prove this?" the manager asked.
Mr. Green laughed.
"Of course he can't. I've been here for a week. Yesterday I was in the city all day."
"That isn't true," Emil shouted angrily. He was almost crying.
"Can you prove that this is the same man? The man who was on the train yesterday?" the manager asked.
Emil thought for a minute. His friends began to look worried. "Yes, I can," Emil said at last. "There was a lady in the carriage for the first part of the journey. Her name is Mrs. James, and she lives in Greenfield. I remember because she asked me to speak to her friend, Mr. Smith. He owns a cloth shop in Newton." The bank manager turned to the thief.
"And can you prove that you were in the city all day yesterday?" he asked. "Of course I can," the thief answered. "I was at the West End Hotel in Princess Square. That's where I'm staying."
"But only since yesterday evening," Paul said. "I know that for a fact. I've been there, dressed as a lift boy." The other bank workers smiled. They wanted to believe the boy's story. But the bank manager looked serious.
"I must keep this money for now," he said. He took a piece of paper and began to write down their names and addresses. "The man's name is Green," Emil said. The thief laughed loudly. "You can see that there's been a mistake. My name's Miller, not Green." "In the train yesterday he called himself Green," Emil said. "Can you prove that your name's Miller?" asked the bank manager. "I have no papers with me," said the thief, "but I can get them from the hotel." "Don't believe him," Emil cried. "It's my money, and I must have it back. My mother asked me to take the money to my grandmother. She lives here in Bridge Street." "Perhaps that's true," said the manager, "but I'll have to ask you again. Can you prove that the money is yours? Is your name written on the back of the notes? Did you write down their numbers?" "Of course not," said Emil. "I didn't think that I could lose the money." "Were there any marks on the notes?" "I don't think so." "Well, that's the end of it then," the thief said. "Everything that I've told you is true. That money's mine. I never steal from children."
"Wait a minute," Emil cried. "Now I remember. There is a mark on the notes. The mark of a pin. I wanted to be sure that the money stayed in my pocket. So I put a pin through the cloth of my pocket and through the bag with the money in it. If you look closely at the notes, you'll see the holes from the pin." The bank manager held the notes up against the light. Everyone watched in silence. The thief stepped back.
"The boy's right," said the manager. "There are holes in these notes."
"And here's the pin that made the holes," Emil said. He put the pin from his jacket on the desk. Then he held his finger up. "And here's the place where I pricked myself." The thief turned and pushed through the crowd of boys. Some of them fell down. He ran through the door of the bank and disappeared. "Catch him!" cried the bank manager. Everyone ran to the door. The thief was outside. There were about 30 boys round him. Some of them held his legs, some of them held his arms, and some of them held his coat. There was no escape for him now. A policeman came running towards them. Polly was with him. The bank manager said to the policeman, "Take this man to the police station. He's stolen this boy's money." The policeman held the thief's arm. "Right," he said. "You come along with me." The bank assistant took the money and the pin and went with them. All the boys and Polly went too. They were a strange group. First there was the policeman and the assistant from the bank, with the thief between them. Then came all the boys, and finally there was Polly on her shining new bicycle. She called to Emil, "I'm going to ride home and tell the family." She rang her little bell, turned into a side street, and rode away. Chapter 7. Policemen and Reporters. At the police station, the policeman told his chief everything that he knew. Emil added more information. He also had to give his name, date and place of birth, and address. The police chief wrote everything down. "And what's your name?" he asked the thief. "John Turner," the man answered. When they heard this, Emil, Paul, and the captain laughed loudly. Even the bank assistant laughed. "First, his name's Green," Paul said. "Then it's Miller, and now it's Turner. So what's his real name? Why don't you ask him?" "Silence!" said the police chief. Mr. Green Miller Turner gave the date and place of his birth. He was staying at the West End Hotel. No, he couldn't prove who he was. He didn't have any papers with him. "And where were you before you came here yesterday?" the police chief asked. "In Greenfield." "That isn't true," cried the captain. "Silence!" the police chief shouted. He turned to the thief. "Mr. Turner, did you steal £70 from the schoolboy Emil Fisher of Newton yesterday?" "Yes," said the thief sadly. "I don't know why I did it. The boy was asleep in the corner of the carriage. I saw the bag with the money in it fall out of his pocket, so I picked it up. I only wanted to see what was in the bag, but because I didn't have any money—" "This isn't true," Emil said. "The money didn't fall out of my pocket. There was a pin through it." "And he did have some money," the captain said. "He paid for food and a taxi yesterday, and today all Emil's money was still in his pocket." "Silence!" the police chief said again. "I didn't ask you to speak." He wrote everything down. "Can I go, sir?" the thief asked. "I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. You know where I'm staying. I'm in the city on business, and I'd like to finish it today." The police chief didn't listen to him. He phoned the main police station for a car to take the thief away. "When can I get my money back?" Emil asked. "I don't know. They'll tell you at the main police station. You must go there now and report to the chief detective." The police car arrived a few minutes later and took the thief away. The other boys were standing outside the police station. Emil gave them the news. He asked them to telephone Little Tuesday with the news too. Finally, he said, "Thank you, everyone, for all your help. Soon I'll be able to pay back the money that you lent me." The boys were happy to help, they said. They didn't want the money back. Only Emil, Paul, and the captain went to the main police station. A policeman took Emil to see the chief detective. The others waited outside his office. The chief detective was a pleasant man. He listened to Emil's story and then gave him back the money. "Look after it now," he said. "I will," said Emil. "I'm going to take it to my grandmother." "You and your detectives did a very good job," said the chief. "Thank you, sir," said Emil. "Can I ask a question?" "Of course." "What will happen to the thief?" "We'll take his photograph and his fingerprints. Then we'll check on our list of criminals. We'll see if he's there." "List of criminals?" "Yes, it's a book. We keep photographs of all the people who've been to prison. It also has the fingerprints of thieves that we're trying to catch. Perhaps your thief is one of the men that we're looking for." The telephone rang. "Just a minute," the chief said. He spoke into the telephone. "Yes? Come up to my office." He turned to Emil. "A few people are coming up to see you. They're reporters from the newspapers." "Oh, are they going to write about me in the newspapers?" "I think so," the chief smiled. "When a schoolboy catches a thief, he becomes famous." The door opened, and 4 reporters came into the room. The chief detective shook hands with them and told the story of Emil and the thief. The 4 reporters wrote everything down carefully. "This is a wonderful story," one of the reporters said. "A boy from the country becomes a detective. "He should join the police," said another man. "Why didn't you go to the police at the beginning and tell them everything?" asked a third reporter. Emil suddenly felt afraid. "Yes, why didn't you do that?" asked the chief detective. "Because," Emil began slowly, "I painted a red nose on the statue in the station square at Newton. Do I have to go to prison?" The reporters and the chief detective all laughed. "Of course not, Emil," said the chief. "We aren't going to send one of our best detectives to prison." "Oh, I'm very happy about that," Emil said. He turned to one of the reporters. "Don't you remember me?" he asked. "We were on the same tram yesterday. You paid for my ticket because I had no money." "Of course," said the reporter. "And you asked me where I lived. You wanted to come and give me back the money." "Can I give it to you now?" said Emil, taking some money out of his pocket. "Of course not," said the reporter. "I've got a better idea. Come with me, and I'll show you the offices of our newspaper. But first, we'll go and have some tea and cakes." "I'd like to go with you very much," said Emil, "but Paul and the captain are waiting for me outside." "Then they must come too," said the reporter. But they had to wait a few more minutes. The other reporters wanted to ask some more questions. Emil told them everything that they wanted to know. They wrote it all down. "Is this the first time that Mr. Green has stolen anything?" one of them asked the chief detective. "I don't think so," he replied. "Phone me in an hour. It's possible that I'll have a big surprise for you." The reporter from the tram put Emil, Paul, and the captain into a taxi, and they all drove away for tea and cakes. Paul sounded his horn on the way. In the cafe, the boys ate a lot of cakes and told the reporter about their exciting adventure. They told him about the meeting in the square and how they followed the taxi. They told him how Paul dressed as a lift boy and about the fight in the bank. "You are three of the finest boys that I've ever met," the reporter said at the end. They all felt very proud of themselves. After tea, the reporter took Emil to the newspaper office. It was a very large building. People were running in and out of rooms all the time. Everyone seemed very busy. The place was filled with the sound of people typing. They went into a room where a young lady was sitting. The reporter walked up and down, telling her Emil's story. Emil watched as she typed it all. Then the reporter telephoned the chief detective's office. He listened for some time. "Really? Is that true?" Emil heard him say. "You don't want me to tell him?" "Thank you very much. It will be a wonderful story for the newspaper." The reporter turned to Emil and said, "Come with me, quickly. We must take your photograph." "Why?" asked Emil in surprise. The reporter smiled. They went up in the lift and into a large room. Emil tidied his hair, and someone took his photograph. Then the reporter took Emil down to the street. He called a taxi to take Emil home. "Goodbye," the reporter said. "And don't forget to read the newspaper this afternoon. I think you'll be very surprised." Chapter 8. With Grandmother at Last. On the way to Bridge Street, Emil asked the driver to stop at the cafe. His case and the flowers were still there. He took them, thanked the owner of the cafe, and got back into the taxi. At last
They arrived at his grandmother's house. Emil rang the bell. The door opened, and his grandmother was standing in front of him. She kissed him, pulled his hair, and said, "Emil, you wild boy, we've heard some very strange stories about you." Polly and her mother came running from the kitchen. They both looked very pleased. "Did you get the money back?" Polly asked. "Of course," Emil answered. He took the notes from his pocket and gave his grandmother £60. "Here's the money, grandmother," he said. "It comes with mother's love. She's sorry that she couldn't send any for the last 3 months, but business wasn't very good. Now she's sent you more than usual." "Thank you very much, my child," the old woman answered. She gave him back one of the pound notes and said, "That's for you, because you're an excellent detective." Emil thanked his grandmother. Then he gave the flowers to his aunt. She took the paper off them, and Polly brought a pot of water from the kitchen. But it was too late. The flowers were dead. "Oh dear, they look like dry grass," said Polly. "They were fresh when Mother gave them to me," Emil said, sadly. "But I couldn't give them any water yesterday." "It doesn't matter," his grandmother said. "Now, we must have our dinner. Uncle won't be home before this evening. Can you help me, please, Polly?" After dinner, Emil wanted to ride Polly's shining new bicycle, so he and Polly went out into the street. His grandmother lay down to rest. His aunt made an apple cake. Her apple cakes were famous. As Emil was riding along Bridge Street, a policeman came past. "Do you know where number 15 is?" he asked. "Yes. Why? Has something happened?" Emil replied. He was thinking about the statue again. No, said the policeman. "Are you the schoolboy Emil Fisher?" "Yes, sir." The policeman didn't say another word. He just walked to the house and rang the bell. Emil's aunt asked the policeman to sit down in the sitting room. His grandmother woke up. She wanted to know what was happening, too. Emil and Polly stood near the table. They were all excited. "I have some news for you," the policeman began. "Emil and his detectives followed a bank thief. The police have wanted to catch the man for a long time. We found his fingerprints in our list of criminals, so he had to tell us everything. And this time his story was true. Most of the money that he stole was in his hat and inside his coat. It was all in £100 notes." "Really?" said Polly. She couldn't believe it. The policeman continued. "2 weeks ago, the bank promised a reward to the person who found the thief. And you caught the man," he said, turning to Emil. "So you'll receive the reward. The chief detective is very pleased." The policeman took some notes from his pocket and put them on the table. £50, he said. Emil looked at the money. He was too surprised to speak. His grandmother gave the policeman a cup of coffee, and then he left. The old woman put her arm round Emil, saying, "I can't believe it. I can't believe it." Emil still couldn't speak, but Polly could. She jumped up and down, shouting, "Now we can invite all the boys here to tea." "Yes," Emil said, "but first we must invite Mother." Chapter 9. Emil's mother goes to the city. The next morning, Mrs. Fisher's neighbour, Mrs. Martin, rang her doorbell. "How are you, Mrs. Fisher?" she asked. "I'm worried about my son," Mrs. Fisher replied. "He hasn't written to me since he went to the city. I'm watching for the postman all the time." "Well, now you can stop worrying, my dear," said Mrs. Martin. "I came to tell you that he's fine. He sends his love." "Where is he? How do you know?" "He's very well. He's also famous. He caught a thief and was given a reward of £50. You must go to the city on the next train." "But who told you all this?" "Your sisters just phoned me. You must go and see them immediately." Later that afternoon, Mrs. Fisher had another surprise. She was sitting on the train, and a man opposite her was reading a newspaper. Suddenly she saw something on the front page. "That's my son!" she cried, pointing to a photograph of Emil. The man put down the newspaper and looked up in surprise. "Really?" he said. "So you're Emil Fisher's mother? I'm sure you're very proud of him. Here, you can read the story." And he gave her the newspaper. "Country boy acts as detective," she read. "100 children follow a thief." Then came Emil's story. Mrs. Fisher read every word carefully. When she finished, she felt very proud of her son. So she read the story again, 7 times. Emil was waiting for her at East Station. "Isn't it wonderful?" he said. "And do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a new coat for you and a football for me." His mother smiled. "That's very nice, dear, but I've got a better idea. We'll put most of the money in the bank and save it. When you're older, it will be very useful to you." "Well, okay," said Emil, "but you'll still have your coat. And now I'd like you to meet my friends." "Where are they?" "At Grandmother's house. Aunt has made one of her apple cakes, and we've asked all the boys to a tea party. They're there now, making a lot of noise." And it was noisy when they arrived. All Emil's new friends were there. Paul, the captain, Gerald, Walter, Robert, Tony, John, Little Tuesday, and the others. There weren't enough chairs for everyone. Polly was running from one table to another with a big pot of tea. Everyone was eating apple cake. The old grandmother was laughing happily. Emil's mother thanked the boys for helping her son. Suddenly, the old grandmother stood up. "Now, listen to me, boys," she began. There was silence. "I'm not going to tell you how wonderful you are," she said. "It isn't a good idea to be too proud of yourselves. It's true that you caught a thief. But there's one boy here who wanted to follow Mr. Green with the rest of you. He wanted to go after him in a taxi, and dress in a lift boy's clothes, and watch him secretly. But he didn't. He did what you told him to do. He stayed at home by the telephone and helped in that way." Everyone looked at Little Tuesday. "Yes, I'm talking about Little Tuesday," the grandmother continued. "He stayed by the telephone for 2 days. It was a boring job, but he did it well. Now, let's all stand up and thank Little Tuesday." And that is exactly what everyone did. The party ended, and all the boys went home. But first they promised to meet again before Emil went back to Newton. The family sat and talked about Emil's adventure. "Well," said Emil, "I've learnt one lesson. You can't believe everything that strangers tell you." "And I've learnt something too," said his mother. "It's not a good idea for boys to travel alone." Emil's grandmother didn't agree. "You're wrong, dear," she said. "You're wrong." "Perhaps," said Emil's mother, "but isn't there a lesson that we can learn from this?" The old lady smiled. "Yes, there is," she said. "Life is difficult sometimes, but there are many kind people in the world." She turned to Emil. "And a true friend comes when you need help."